Thank you very much. My name is Victor Oshodi, and I represent the Association for the Advancement for Artificial Intelligence, a US-based AI think tank, where I'm the Nigerian chapter director, and I'm also a policy formulation expert, international business consultant as well, and AI and safe ethic policy expert as well. So I'm going to be here with all of you here to sit today, and I'm going to be speaking on policy framework for trustworthy digital infrastructure, bridging innovation, regulation, inclusion, and in the emerging economies. My presentation here today is to give us more information of what is happening and also to create more awareness of what can be done better. My hope is that this message will go further wider to policymakers in government and to our friends in the West too, who have a way of reaching out to those in power in other countries. So without wasting more of your time, let me move straight to my presentation. So today I'll be looking at digital infrastructure, which is the backbone of governance, trade, education, and health. However, trust deficit undermine adoption. Imported framework often fail locally. Now, digital infrastructure is increasingly the backbone of modern societies, but in emerging economies, building this infrastructure raises unique challenges. The central question is not just whether we can build systems, but whether people will trust them. So, without trust, even the best designed system risk rejection. Global framework like the OECD AI principles are excellent, but don't always align with local realities in Africa. The gap is what this presentation will try to explore today. Now, my presentation cut across the literature context from these great writers here, which is a Trust Drives Cultural Change, Abraham 2019, Leapfrogging Can Accelerate Growth, Matthew and Shippers 2023, Under Resource Context Require Adaptive Governance, Chikote 2023, Legitimacy Matters on Modern Technologies, Akpan Obong 2023. So if you look at the literature consistently highlights two themes. First, the importance of trust, and second, the need for context sensitivity governance. Context sensitive governance. Abraham's work showed that digital trust is not just technical. It reshapes cultural ideas. While Matthew and Shippers argues that Africa can leapfrog into advanced systems without following the same path as developed countries like the West. But Chikote and colleagues remind us that governance under resource setting must be adaptive. And Akpan Obong work on West Africa shows the legitimacy of how people perceive policies. How people perceive politics that matters more than the technology itself. What this simply means is that we need to reshape our ideas on how information is being spread across the different continents, understanding that every community has its own ideology and principle, and policymakers must adapt to a way whereby they will be able to carry everyone along without having any misinformation and doubt from the citizen. So I'll move to the next slide. What is the cultural perception of trust? Nigeria example, which I'm going to use a 3 key Africa as my major key points in this presentation. There was a time the resistance to digital ID came into place. People were not so sure if they want to do it. But on the other hand, when Ghana launched their own platform, the community accepted it. Why? Because this was due to the success of community consultation, which took a longer time. Likewise, the Kenyan money adoption through social trust. Now, what is the point here? With cultural perception shape adoption, in Nigeria, for example, we have seen resistance to a digital ID because of fear of surveillance and misuse. Contrast with that of Ghana, where community consultation created buy-in and legitimacy. In Kenya, mobile money succeeded because it leveraged existing trust networks. This example shows that technology adoption is not just about the tool, it's also about how people perceive it, its purpose, and governance. So we must understand that we are in the era where information is key. So those who are involved in making policies, both in the international organization, must understand that every policy they are making, it has to align with local realities. If you're making policies from the top and you're not carrying the people who are in the local and rural areas along, there are very limited chances that your vision is going to be accepted or is even going to be known by these people. So let's continue because of my time. The next slide, governance challenges. Weak enforcement due to political instability. This is happening majorly in Africa and some Asia countries. Regulatory lag behind innovation, large informal economics ignored by policy, inequality risks leaving many excluded. So now, imagine economics face 4 governance challenges, like I mentioned above. First, weak enforcement because of political instability. Now, for those who are active in the system, the political actors, this is a conscious thing. Do you want to see your society grow? Do you want to carry your people along? This is a personal decision you have to make if you want to serve. Because if you cannot be able to enforce policies that are trustworthy, I have no idea how you expect the people you are governing to see you as a leader of trust and hope. Now, this cuts across beyond just Africa to other countries in the world. Our leaders must rule with conscience, knowing that they are there to serve the people, and they must drive in policies that are acceptable by the people. The people must be aware of this. Don't just wake up one day and throw information out there and sign some bills into law. But the people have to be carried along so that they can play their own role and get involved in the system, in the process. So the second here is the regulatory lag. Innovation often moves faster than policy, which is very true. And the third here is that information is huge part of the economy and not captured by digital system. And finally, inequality. Policies often unintentionally exclude rural or marginalized communities. If we don't address this, trust in digital infrastructure will remain very low and maybe unacceptable. So we must be very careful not to exclude the people that matters more in our policy decision making. This is very important. Those in urban areas might tend to get more information early than those in the rural areas. But then again, the central government or those in power must be able to understand that it is time to carry everyone, both in the rural and urban area, along in their policies development. So in their policy formulation, my case study here is that Nigerian grassroots distrust in the IT system, like we mentioned above, Ghana e-governance adoption with legitimacy, and Kenya leapfrogging via M-Pesa. This case study underlined the same lessons. Global best practices must be localized if we want to achieve a great result. Nigerian digital ID systems struggle without grassroots engagement. However, Ghana, on the other hand, saw smoother adoption because it integrates community voices. Kenyan success with M-Pesa shows that the leapfrogging is possible, but only when technology aligns with social norms. My next slide here is a graph. This graph illustrates the balance between three key policy areas: innovation, regulation, and inclusion. Innovation, as you can see in this graph here, is about 65%. This takes the lead. It takes the lead than the other two that I mentioned. And it has a stronger emphasis. It's placed on driving new ideas, technology, and system forward. It also highlights the importance of fostering creativity and technological advancement as a primary pillar. That is the innovation on this graph here. While regulation has about 45%, this comes second, indicating a moderate but significant role. While innovation is vital, regulation ensures that growth is safe, structured, and trustworthy. Inclusion, 30%. This has the lowest score, showing that less emphasis has been placed here compared to the other two areas. So where is this fault all coming from? It's because we ignore the basic thing that needs to be done in the society. We majorly focus on the urban area while neglecting those in the rural area in the policies that are being implemented. So I have to be very fast because of my time. So yes, this has the lowest score, showing that the less emphasis has been placed here compared to the other two areas. However, inclusion remains critical, as without bringing all stakeholders and community on board, innovation and regulation cannot achieve a long-term legitimacy. Overall message here is that this chart conveys that while innovation is prioritized, regulation and inclusion must be strengthened to create a more balanced and trustworthy digital infrastructure. So I'll go to the next slide. What do we propose here? What do I propose here? Community engagement at the center. Those at the urban area, the policymakers must be able to get everyone involved. Adaptive incremental regulation. Regional cooperation via AU AFTA, which is important, playing key roles ensuring making sure that everyone in Africa gets information on new ideas and policies that will be very beneficial to impacting and improving our lives. Build digital literacy and governance expertise. Combine global standards with local realities. So with this proposed hybrid framework, I propose that hybrid governance framework. First, community engagement is important, involving people from design to deployment. Second, adaptive regulation that evolves with innovation. Third, regional cooperation like the African Union framework, like AFTA as well, should guide standard. Fourth, capacity building, digital literacy and governance expertise are crucial. And lastly, hybrid governance best practice must be adopted or adapted to local realities. What are the recommendations? My recommendation here: engage community early, create adaptive and flexible policies, blend AU strategies with global norms, invest in digital literacy, promote cross-border cooperation, My key recommendations are straightforward. Engage community early, craft adaptive policies and that align Africa and global framework, invest in human capacity, which is lacking in most of African countries, yeah, and ensure that digital infrastructure is not soiled, but part of the regional integration. To my conclusion, technology alone is not enough. Trust, legitimacy, and governance determine the success. Africa needs inclusive, hybrid, and adaptive model. For someone who has been in the field, especially with AI and tech, I can tell you clearly, we receive so many feedback and questions of doubt and trust. And this is the call for concern to all who are in power. And now I know among the gentlemen and women seated there, a lot of you are policy makers. When you're designing your policies, especially that concerns Africa, we must understand that these key points that have been raised here are critical, and it should be in every policy that is being implemented. Why I said it is that most of the policies we see in Africa, a lot of major partners in the West are being contracted to get involved in this. And we hope that we'll begin to see changes that not just affect those in the urban area, but carry everyone, both in the rural areas, along. So in my conclusion, building trustworthy digital infrastructure is not primarily a technological challenge. It's about trust, legitimacy, and governance. Africa's success will depend on hybrid framework that are inclusive and adaptive. If we get this right, digital infrastructure can become a foundation for sustainable development and regional integration, and thus also benefiting the West in so many ways. So that is my conclusion. I'll be open to questions and contribution. Thank you very much for your attention. I look forward to your question and exploring how we can work together to make digital infrastructure both trustworthy and inclusive. Thank you very much.